Previously, I talked about how the modern hyper-capitalist world actively tries to dissolve our connection to metaphysics, to the Tao, to the Logos. But what on earth is metaphysics? Well, metaphysics is basically just the server of the universe. It is the ultimate mainframe, and the reason we should care about this is because the server pushes the ideas into our mind, and we would have better connection to the server if we study, meditate, pray, and so on. It is manifested as being inside the flow in modern psychology terminology. But in order to understand what it feels like to connect to that server, we first have to completely deconstruct the modern intuition of how we do things. Let's look at the very language and the mindset we use to navigate our daily lives. In modern time, our mind is always running the program of I do something. Think about the grammar of our modern minds. It is strictly subject, verb, object. I do this action. I am the subject. The verb is the action I take, and the object is the thing I manipulate. We are taught that we are the absolute center of the universe, dictating our will unto that matter. Let me give you a very clear example of how this plays out. In our modern world, we are constantly trying to control all the pixels. Imagine we are staring at a massive, beautiful 4K screen, but our face is pressed right up against the glass. We are desperately trying to manage every pixel we have and concentrating very, very well, and struggles to move the mouse onto each pixel and select the color among 10,000s of the color options, one by one trying to find the color that goes in accordance with the textbook. Which one is correct? It is so anxious. The timeline is up and there are thousands more. We say quick, 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 as if praying to the god of pixels. We have urgent, almost religious feeling that as long as I'm capable of getting this one thing done, as long as I can fix this specific pixel, then my life will be somehow perfect. It is this exact sort of vexation that motivates people daily. It makes us do a lot of things, hustling, biohacking, optimizing, but we are doing it so blindly because what happens when you finally fix that one pixel? Magically, a pound of other problems suddenly appear. You fix your diet and suddenly you are anxious about your sleeping schedule. You buy the new app to save time and now you have to spend hours managing the app's notifications. It is a whole set of nightmares. The subject-verb-object mindset, I fix this problem, is a trap. The more one controls the details, the more disconnected one becomes from the whole picture. So what is the alternative? What is the metaphysical mindset, or what we might be calling the continental mindset? It operates completely different from I do this action. It is not a straight line of control, so-called linear logic. It's a cycle or process of connection. It happens in 4 steps. The first step is receptivity. Something, an idea or an intuition comes into my mind. I don't initiate, it just arrives. It is called deterministic yang. The second step is connection. I reflect on that idea. I let the flow inside my body accumulate. I'm basically plugging my local terminal into the universe server. This is called free will yin. The third step is action and will. You don't force the action, rather those accumulated feeling and ideas push me to act. This is free will yang. And the fourth step is reality. The action is manifested in the real world. This is determinist yin. You might be thinking, what on earth are these gibberish? I know this can sound a bit abstract. Let me use piano as a metaphor. When you play a piece of music, you can approach it in 2 entirely different ways. The modern way, the pixel controlling way. She's playing the piano like working in a factory. Society today is trying to make everything polished, standard, and perfectly controlled. Here's one example. Well, listen to that. You can hear it, right? It sounds nice, everything is in control, and the technique is flawless. But this is completely hollow. It is robotic. The player is obsessing over the details. Here is the crescendo, so I must increase my finger pressure by exactly 20%. They are trying to control the pixels of music. But 100 years ago, musicians had a much more continental sense of playing. They understood the metaphysical approach. So you can hear the difference. Let's just make the crescendo as one example here. I really want to get this crescendo here. But this is not a good way of playing. The continental way of playing the music here will be I'm seeking God. And it gives me comfort. You see, they are two completely different feelings. And you hear the difference. In the second way, the musician is not saying I am doing this action, not me doing the action of playing, but the music is coming through into my mind. There I'm reflecting on it, connecting back to server, letting the flow gather inside my body, and then the flow pushes my hands to play the piano. The physical crescendo, the actual getting louder, it is not the end goal, it is just a symbol. The modern person thinks the crescendo is just a volume knob you can turn up, but the metaphysical musician knows that the crescendo is a way of connecting to the server. It is a physical manifestation of a spiritual potentiality. Let's use another example, let's say AI, because AI actually gives us a beautiful framework to understand metaphysics. Think about how an AI image generator works. You type in a prompt and the AI calculates the possibilities, but where is it pulling those possibilities from? It pulls them from something called the latent space. The latent space is this massive, invisible, high-dimensional rhyme that contains the potential for every single image that could ever possibly exist. It holds all the potentiality, but none of the reality until you prompt it. The server of the universe, metaphysics, the Tao, the Logos, is exactly like that latent space. It contains all the infinite potentiality of meaning, beauty, and truth. So when the musician feels the flow of the music, or when you suddenly feel a deep sense of purpose in your life, what is happening? You are connecting to that latent space. Your intuition is basically the prompt. When you have an intuition, it is like you are entering a prompt into the universe, and this sort of prompt will trigger a certain part of the cosmic latent space, bringing a specific truth or action down into the real world. You are not doing the action from scratch in a vacuum. You are querying the server, and the server is flowing through you. This brings us a word we use all the time today, usually very casually, vibe. That place has a weird vibe. I love the vibe of this song. What actually is a vibe? The modern hyper-scientific mind hates the concept of a vibe because it cannot be strictly defined. The empirical mind wants to define everything like this table is white, it is made of wood, it is 3 feet tall. They want verifiable data, but you cannot define a vibe perfectly, of course, because a vibe is not a physical object. A vibe is the intuitive feeling of what it connects to inside the server when you walk into a breathtaking ancient cathedral, or when you sit alone in a deep forest, or when you hear a piece of music that makes you want to cry. The vibe you feel is the bandwidth of your connection. It is the feeling of your local terminal successfully handshaking with the universal server. You can't put it on a spreadsheet, and you can't try to figure out its exact weight or dimensions, but it is the most real thing you will ever experience. And this is why symbols matter in our real world. A symbol, whether it is the crescendo in a piece of Chopin, a religious ritual, or even a deeply meaningful personal habit, is not an end in itself. We don't do these things just to control the pixels and make life perfect. Symbols are simply steps. They are the methods we use to prompt the latent space. They evoke a certain connection to the server, and interestingly, why religions abandon idol worship is because of this reason as well. This will be another video to discuss. If you spend your entire life living in the subject verb object mindset, thinking that you have to control every pixel, fix every bug, and manage every tiny detail of your material existence, you will exhaust yourself, you will burn out, because the human mind was not built to be a standalone, isolated hard drive. But if you step back, stop obsessing over the pixels, and learn to connect your intuition, if you can realize that your actions are just prompts and that your true goal is to align your flow with the server of the universe, then you stop being a machine, you stop being a polished standard factory product. You become an end in yourself, and you and God merge into one.